If you want to watch new stuff, you have to go pull through the dregs of the various streaming services.
If they were lucky, they might be eking into the bottom half of the top 10.
Renegade Online.
Sherry Lynn for 5. I wish Hollywood would stop beating all this pre-written stuff to death and take a risk on making something new, as opposed to remakes. Yeah.
No, but here's the thing. It's kind of a misnomer because there's new all the time. It's just all going to streaming. It's concept television shows and sometimes movies. But when we're talking big box office returns, they're not willing to risk it with the amount of money that they're spending to make these movies. You know, they're not going to risk putting that much money into something that doesn't have established IP attached to it. If you want to watch new stuff, you have to go pull through the dregs of the various streaming services and you'll find stuff there. I just started Paradise with Sterling K. Brown. Other than horrendous flat cinematography, it's at least fairly interesting and whatnot, but you'll find new stuff. You just have to go to streaming. You can't look for it on the big screen.
Since you mentioned streaming, Brett, let me get this last little bit. I'm not going to dwell on this very long, and then we'll get the rest of the super chats. We're going to send everybody over to Film Threat. But since we were talking about streaming earlier, you mentioned Paramount Plus, and we were mentioning Disney, right? All the flops that they've had. There's no new stuff, but there is. And you got to go out there and streaming because it's easier to put it there. All right, let me show you something here. If you remember, Brett, all this rehash, remake, and especially the Marvel Star Wars garbage on Disney Plus, right? Probably, if they were lucky, they might be eking into the bottom half of the top 10 every single week with a new episode of The Acolyte. Literally no weeks with Skeleton Crew. Didn't even hit the top 10. Agatha All Along maybe hit 9 or 10 here and there a little bit. Came in real super weak, okay? Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, budgets on those shows, Brett, what do you remember them being? Do you recall?
$180 million for The Acolyte for 8 episodes.
It was more.
That was the baseline that they gave you, was $180 million.
$180 million was actually what Caroline Reed and I found up through a certain reporting. So there's still more to report that hadn't come in on the UK side yet.
Yeah.
So that 180 is going to be probably closer to 300 gross when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Never really broken the top 10 charts. Paramount Plus, it's got literally half the number of subscribers of Disney Plus. It's got about 70 million compared to Disney Plus's 140. Those are both global figures, although unlike Disney, Paramount does not delineate how many of those 70 million are North American versus international. But we can use some common sense. Paramount's not really in a whole lot of international territories in any kind of major way. So probably a good bit of those 70 million are here. Look at 1923. That's the Yellowstone spinoff show starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. 1923, probably Harrison Ford's best work in the last several years, bar none. Star Wars, no good. Red Hulk, nobody's giving him any critical acclaim. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was an absolute embarrassment and humiliation to that character. 1923, I would tell everybody to go watch. Season 1 was amazing.
I really liked 1883.
This is the follow-up. Yep, this is the follow-up. This is the next generation. So Harrison Ford Season 1 popped back up last week because the second season was coming out. 262 million right here. If you look at on the number 6 spot, that's 1923 Season 1. 262 million minutes watched last week. 531 million minutes watched this week, or the past week when this was measured. That 262 million of people going back and rewatching Season 1 2 years later with no other excuse, more view time than anything Disney has gotten with Skeleton Crew. 531 million minutes watched, I think, was more than any week of The Acolyte, and that was a show from 2 years ago with people just rewatching stuff. 901 million minutes watched on the premiere week with one episode of Season 2 right there in the spot number 4.
Wow.
That's Paramount Plus. 900. There has been no Disney Plus show since The Mandalorian season 2, I think, that has done that.
And let's face it, like that's a bad week for Netflix. If you look at Samba TV on a weekly basis, 7 of 10 are Netflix every single time.
Yep. And here's what else. Of all the Paramount Plus subscriptions that there are, what is the overwhelmingly subscribed to tier? Is it the premium or the SVOD or AVOD?
Tends to be whatever the ad tier is.
That's the ad tier. Yeah, that's the advertising tier, the AVOD tier. That is the ad tier. So Paramount Plus is collecting that $6 a month now. Now I've gone and got premium because I've enjoyed Paramount Plus so much. I'm giving them 12.
And you still get ads. You still get previews for shows. I hate that on Paramount Plus.
On occasion.
By the way, this is probably why, and we don't know what kind of pressure was put on Nielsen. Maybe they just suddenly had this feeling that they needed to be kind to Disney. But Nielsen now has taken the unprecedented step, which they offer to no other company, of bundling all of Disney's streaming apps together in one to make it look bigger. So now,
Hulu,
as opposed
Disney,
to having, an ESPN Plus, which never, ever managed to even make it onto any list,
Disney doesn't even put
it.
Those together. Disney doesn't even put ESPN together.
But they do now. And what it does is it's actually kind of embarrassing that you have these three put together and it's still being doubled by Netflix.
Yeah.
Yep. Netflix it's actually kind of crazy, the dominance that Netflix has over it. It called into question because early on people wondered why they started just reinvesting so heavily into their own content, right? Because early on in the streaming days, you didn't have 30 different choices to stream from, and they were getting all of the licensed material. But now you see why, because every week, 7 of 10, 8 of 10 are Netflix shows, and a Taylor Sheridan show and something else ends up as the scraps that get left over in there, or something debuts high.
Yeah. Landman was number 1 every week. And I have a feeling by next week. Now, real quick, there is a glitch when they updated the website Friday. It's not Feb 11 through Feb 27. This isn't 2 weeks worth. It was February 11th to 18th. And then when they updated it, it went Feb 11th to 27th. It's the new list, but it should read February 19th to 27th. Just to be clear, it's a glitch on Luminate Variety's site. So it is just 1 week, just to be clear, because I refreshed it today to double check, and it's a glitch. But that is February 18th through 27th with the premiere of 1923. So just to kind of show you, and again, this is a show who, in its first season, what do we talk about? Hey, the money's got to be worth it, right? This is from Taylor Sheridan. This is the thing that's been great about Paramount for me. They're so malleable to the storyteller, or at least to me. They will add episodes because I need to tell a story. You think about when you talk about a show that's costing $22 million per episode. That's 1923 season 1, more expensive technically than House of the Dragon. Then you ask for 8 more episodes. I didn't do very good math in school, but I can multiply 8 and 3 and a bunch of zeros, and I realized I asked for $150 million. Well, actually, he asked for about $175 million at $22 million an episode times 8. So, I mean, you're talking about close to $175 million for season 1. That's because they filmed a lot of it in Africa, if you remember. They did a lot of stuff here. Harrison Ford probably didn't come cheap for the show. Helen Mirren didn't come cheap either, but probably cheaper than Harrison Ford. Season 2, I haven't watched it yet, but even if they're spending another $200 million on season 2, they spent about $170 million or so on season 1. This is according to Taylor Sheridan. This was an interview that he did. And the point is that they're pulling the kind of numbers that Disney could only dream of. Yeah. Disney's pulling literally 1/4 to 1/5 the audience, and they're spending at least as much money as Paramount, if not twice as much, for Marvel and Star Wars shows. That's the problem. That's the problem.
I mean, Paramount has gone all in with Taylor Sheridan, not just as a creative, but as kind of the star of his own movement. So he has his own section on the Paramount Plus app. like the Taylor Sheridan collection, because they know that it's with unique enough storytelling that if people watch one of them, there's a high likelihood that they'll look to the next one and say, look, I liked 1883, I liked 1923, I'll check out Landman, or I'll check out Special Ops Lioness. There's a very strong possibility that he's worth every penny.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.